Okay. Welcome everyone to our work session of January 11th, 2022. It's nice to see you all. We are here to talk about our capital plan for the coming year so we can move forward with getting projects funded and capital improvements going. I also asked Abe to send around the last 3-year capital plans, 19, 20, and 21, because looking at those, it looks like there are some projects that have not yet been started. So just to get a sense of what might be going on in 2022, I thought we could look at that list as well. And then going through the 2022 project list with the town board. Are all the town board members here? I'm sorry, I forgot to look at all my screen.
Andres is not here.
Andres is not here yet. Okay. Stephanie, will you?
I'm reaching out.
Thank you. We also will be working on the 10-year capital plan. Not tonight, but hopefully over the next little while, we will also revisit what has been put forth in the past and do between 22 and 32 of what we think needs to be on the capital plan roster. We are going through the town's comprehensive plan, so that may inform capital projects. We have a lot of infrastructure that may be coming, then there's also sort of resiliency and things like that to think about with severe storms and things that keep hitting us. So lots to think about, but so let's get started. Abe, do you want to share your screen or?
Yes, I can do that. I know Roxanne already has me as a co-host.
Great.
So I am going to go ahead and do that. Bear with me a second, please. I just want to get to that screen so that I can share the proper ones. And the one thing that, if I may add, I know Supervisor Calvis mentioned the fact that we are working on the 10-year capital plan also, and she has developed a form that actually we're going to be requesting that the department heads provide a little more information on the particular projects. It's something that it will help not only the board, but also the public when they look at that report, they can see what some of these projects entail, on why we are, doing what we're doing. Can you see the first screen that I have there?
No.
No.
And I just want to take 1 second to introduce Jessica
Sure.
Youngblood. She's here. She is going to be our new director of planning. So for those of you who haven't met her yet, you will soon see her in our midst. But thanks for joining us, Jessica.
Right. I think now it's there, right?
Yes.
So this first spreadsheet is actually the capital project list for the year 2019 rather, and the reason that actually we thought it was a good idea for the board to see and for the public to see also is there are due to COVID, some of these projects have been delayed, and but I think the majority of what was approved by the town board back then has been completed or is in the process of being completed. But there's just a couple of them, like a few of them in 2019, and there are going to be a few more in 2020 and 2021 that still need some action, to be taken so that we can move forward with those projects. And I know that again, Chris Soy is on the Zoom, I believe. I cannot see the whole screen, so. But I do believe that, again, this first one that's highlighted in yellow is the aerators at the Bedford Hills Park pond. And I do know that this is something that had been initially requested by the previous recreation superintendent, Bill Hadicream. So I'm sure that, again, now that we're, we can do other things, this project will be taken care of. I don't know if Chris, can provide some kind of a timeline. But maybe he can, if that's even something.
That is correct. That was a project that it was approved in 2019, and when I came on board in the second half of 2019, we had some other priorities that we were dealing with. I have circled back to that and discussed with our park foreman that we would like to, we do have some issues with those aerators and bubblers in the in Lake Marie, and we do have plans to have discussions with aquatics company that we utilize for treatment of the pond and the kind of experts in that area. So we would like to move forward with that, and we plan to in the first half of this year.
The next one that's highlighted here is this is property that the town is in the process of acquiring. So again, this is part of once the property is acquired from the current owners, which is the DEP. The intent is to be able to hook up that property to the sewer. So back when this was approved, again, we needed to kind of just make sure that it's properly named, but the money will be there until such time that we can proceed with the connection of that property to the sewer system in Katona. Again, right now I don't think we have time for that because I don't know. I'm not sure what the status of that acquisition is.
Yeah, that one's right. That one's on hold a little bit, but that's okay. It will be used for the sewer for sure at some point.
Yes.
Yep.
Right. We also have the improvements to Cherry Street's north end. That's a beautification project, which also the superintendent of recreation, Chris Soy, will be working on. I don't know if you want to provide additional information, Chris.
Other than that project too was suspended around kind of COVID time at the onset of that. There was a working group that was working on the conceptual plan for that, and I think that group needs to be re-engaged and further discussions with that. And I know the supervisor has discussed it briefly with me about the status and moving forward with that.
Yep.
And this is the one on the end of Route 35, right?
Yep, at the corner of 35 and
Okay,
Cherry.
'cause there was a bit of talk about that. I'd also like to see that accelerated.
Mhm.
Yes.
Right.
And the last, actually in the 2019, these are emergency generators that were approved for the traffic lights. And this is something that the Commissioner of Highways, this will be his project. So I did not see Kevin on. I'm sure he's down now, but if you want to elaborate on that, Kevin, that would be great.
Yeah, certainly. Sorry, my computer crashed, so I just joined on my cell phone. So I heard something about sewer as I joined back in. So if I missed something, let me know. I can comment on it. As far as the traffic signals, these are the project is for backup power at 2 traffic lights that are owned by New York State DOT. One at Route 35 and 22, and the other one at the intersection of 684 and 35. And the project has been very slow due to coordination with New York State, since they're their traffic signals, meaning we don't own them, the state does. And they are working on specifications for backup power for these signals, like battery backup. So as soon as they have that and have a program in place, we'll work with them to try to fund 2 of them. But it's been a bit of a process because they're not exactly sure what they want. Right now, we power those signals with generators when they fail, meaning if there's a power outage, but there is a downtime between when the power goes out and we get there with generators. The backup power would allow that to be relatively seamless. It would go on automatically.
Great.
And that's for 2019. Again, there were a number of other projects on that list that I completed. Some of them are being worked on. But again, I think that as things progress, we can certainly provide an update to the board. So this way you're up to date on some of these projects on the backlog. If I may, I want to go to the 2020-2021 project, Supervisor. Okay.
Thank you. So everything on the 2020-2021 project list was funded by the bond that we issued last year for 12.3 million.
12.9.
12.9 million.
Yes.
Sorry, $12.9 million. So those are,
Okay.
in the works already.
So, yes, so here is the project list for the years 2020 and 2021. Again, just to give, like a general, information about projects and how in the past has been done. Certainly this current board can certainly, decide to, do something else, but typically projects, and this will be the case of the 22 capital projects, that projects get approved, and then in the first year of the capital approved, so 22, the board, once approved, we will just issue bond resolutions, approve, have them go through the established period, and then we do not borrow money until 2023 after the 2023 capital projects are approved. The reason we do that is because we save a lot of money in interest by not having to borrow money temporarily. And fortunately, the reason why having strong reserves is necessary, because we're able to do the cash flow without having to borrow money and again pay the interest on that. So that was the case in the 2020 and 2021 capital projects. There were a number of projects on this particular list that have already been completed or are being worked on, but there are a few of them that are still in the works that need to be addressed. I know that the first two that are here actually are projects that have to do with buildings, and also Rocco is in charge of municipal buildings for the town, so perhaps he can provide a little bit of information on the status of the first two for the Bedford Hills Post Office and for the Bedford Hills train station.
Yes, thank you, Abe. Good evening, everybody. Hope all is well. Yeah, I guess when we did prepare for the last 10-year capital plan, we had our contractors go through the buildings to give us an estimated time for replacement of air handlers, boilers, and such for these different buildings that we do have. Bedford Hills Post Office did receive a new boiler, but their air handlers is still working, functioning well. And we put a number in at the time, not knowing, right now it's in good shape, is what we're hearing from the post office. So as they handle the maintenance on there, that's for the post office, but we do need the funding in there because of the life span of the unit, to make sure that we're ready to go when that time comes. Bedford Hills train station boiler has been also maintained by Atlantic Westchester. They said that it's actually a peerless boiler. It's actually in good shape, and the maintenance is working. So we do have funding there for that also. But same case, right now, we also have to look at which direction the town wants to go. Right now, we're in the process of working on the 425 Cherry Street building for heat pump application. So we would like to get the input from Mark Dealking and everyone else with the Energy Code to discuss with the board which way to go with those buildings. So right now we're really working on 425, and we will go to those buildings and determine which way to go, either stay with gas or to go with heat pumps to see if it works with those particular buildings. So that's where we're at right now. We have the funding there, but we have to be able to plan for it and to see which way we'd like to go for those two buildings. That's what I have.
Yeah. Yeah, and if I may add one thing that I do say that I agree with Al, I think we're in a good position as far as these two projects are concerned, because as the town board moves forward with any of the other HVAC systems at 425 and the townhouse, I think it will give us an opportunity to perhaps, make sure that whenever we do these two buildings, that we select a similar technology for those buildings.
Great.
Yep.
The next, again, there are a number of projects here that are in the works or have been completed. Where we only highlighted the ones that really need to be talked about because there's no activity. The next one is actually also part of Parks and Recreation for the Bedford Village Park. Chris?
Yep, and then you'll see here the basketball court recoding that in terms of priority wasn't attended to this year, and some of these projects also were on the docket and kind of planned prior to the community house renovation project. But we are looking to, you'll see in upcoming ones in the other park districts and a couple other recoding projects for basketball courts or tennis courts, and we're looking to address those this year, most likely collectively, and see if we and to attend to the courts that way. And then just some money was allotted for some bathhouse improvements. We did some stuff. We did attend to some of the improvements in house, but we would like that funding. We have some other bathhouse improvements that we have scheduled and planned, and that funding will allow us to do that this year.
Great.
And then we have a couple of other additional projects now for recreation. This is for the Katona Park basketball court and the tennis courts. Chris?
Same.
As I mentioned, say the court repair recoding priority. We just pushed it out, and we'll be looking to address those this year.
Now, this is again goes back to this is there are a couple of 2020 projects here, and these have been sorted. I should have put them in a different order, but anyway, there's also there's a project that was originally approved in 2020 for the beautification of the roadside properties that for the town. And just to give you an example, one of them was the triangle on Harris and Cherry Street that was going to be taken care of. I believe that there was another one in Bedford Hills that was going to be addressed like a similar town property. And another Chris will be the one that will be, Chris and his crew will be working on some of these, and I'm sure coordinating with Kevin Wynn as that work gets done. But Chris, you may want to talk about some specifics, please.
Yeah, some of those beautification projects were kind of preliminarily discussed back in 2019 and in 2020. And we, just haven't been able to provide the resources there to move forward with that. Again, some of this planning was prior to the overall community house project. So we will be revisiting those and looking to put a plan and proposals together to address those beautification projects. There's some conversation around those regarding ability to maintain, to build them out and install them is one thing, but to maintain is another. So there are some discussions on that and what those will look like and how far they will be developed. But we're looking to move that forward this year as well.
And Chris, there's the three projects that follow that I highlighted. These are also recreation, and that includes also, since you're in charge of cemeteries, that's a project that will be running through you and your office, as well as the maintenance of the milk buildings. Since that's where your staff is, but I think Al may have some input on that, and then also. There is improvements to the Bedford Hills train station. Actually, my apologies. These are actually Al. The last two are Al's.
Which one is this?
Now, the maintenance, the milk building and the roof of 21 Park Avenue.
Okay, the one, oh yeah, 21 Park Avenue for, that is part of, you mean the HVAC geothermal?
Yes,
Yeah, okay, that is, I believe, part of the other two buildings. I believe we're under the same budget for the capital plan for the 321 townhouse and the 425 Cherry Street. This is to replace the HVAC unit in the 21 Park Avenue rec office and garage. This is also basically at a standstill right now, being maintained, but also we have to look at what direction we are going to go. Are we going to do heat pumps? Are we going to do geothermal? This is a discussion that we need to have as we go forward. But right now, like I said, we're in with 425, and we do have this budget, I believe, with the 321 and 425 building. Abe can correct me if I'm wrong on
no,
that.
actually, no, we ended up putting a separate project for that building, because that's also going to include the replacement of the roof of the building.
Okay, all right. Well, that's even better. I mean, because we do have the roof there. That has to be done. We did figure money in for the roof. Which would be done in conjunction with the unit once we're ready.
Right. First, do you want to talk about the Buxton and Chichester
Yeah,
cemeteries?
for that, if you can see above that too, the improvements of town-owned cemeteries. We've had money allotted the past 2 years for those improvements, and working with the cemetery committee. Those projects and those funds have been allocated to stone wall repair at Buxton Cemetery, and those have been completed. The back 2019, there were proposals put together for creation of these cremation plots. Really, since 2020, there hasn't been any further advancement of that project, and we'll be meeting with the cemetery committee in upcoming weeks to see where that stands, and if that's going to move forward or not.
And then, Al, there was also the project for $25,000 for the Bedford Hills train station, the exterior improvements. That's you also.
For 25,000,
Yes.
I'm trying to find it here, Abe. Where? Let me see if I can. Let me go on your screen, because I didn't have it on my Bedford Hills train station improvement
Yes.
for 25,000. Well, we already have something for the boiler.
Yeah, no, this was actually, if I remember correctly, this had to do possibility of replacing some of the windows, as well as some of the do something with part of the roof, and perhaps
Yep.
I think some of the actual building structure that needed to have.
Okay. Well, we're obviously, it's good to have the money there for it has to be for the windows, because I believe we have a separate line for the roof.
Yes.
We had an estimated cost there that was put in for the roof replacement when we're ready to do it. We also have some flashing around the roof areas that could use some repair. So depending on when we use it, we could use that 25,000 also for that, and look into some windows, but we have not had the time to look into them. But that's something that hopefully we get time to move forward. Hopefully in the near future, but we have a lot going on right now.
Okay. And then,
It's good to have this.
And then the last, there's two more. We have sanitary sewer hookup for the Scout House, and then other town facilities. I know that, Kevin can perhaps elaborate on that, but, these are, again, funds that were put aside so that we can hook up to any town-owned properties to the sewer system.
Correct. So we're currently budgeting that work. There is a deficit in funds, but we're working on getting prices for each one and scheduling the connections for 2022.
Okay. And then the other thing too, while Kevin is on the truck for the consolidated water fund.
Right, that'll be purchased this year as well, 2022.
Okay. And the other one that's highlighted for 2020 is the $10,000 that was requested for the plumbing work at the 1787 courthouse. Again, this is a town-owned building that is leased to the Bedford Historical Society. The town is responsible for some of the major repair or some of the major work that's needed there. And this is something that I know the Lynn Ryan had made the requests back in 2019. So we got approved in 2020 for the bathroom and plumbing replacement at the courthouse. Al, do you have anything else that you want to add to that?
Well, I spoke to her the other day, and she, because we have it down with north facade, exterior painting, and she informed me that was actually completed, and that that's what you had. Yeah, I asked her the project that they had completed last year was the painting of the courthouse, the Bedford 1787 courthouse. That's what the $10,000 funding was for. She said, and I checked with Donna, we did pay the bills. That was closed out. She did say she was going to come before the board for what you just brought up, Abe, for the bathrooms. They were looking to get things together to present to the board to go forward with the bathrooms at a later date this year.
Okay. And then as far as the 2020-2021 capital projects, that's some of the items that are still open that we wanted to bring up to the board. I am going to now bring up the 2020 updated capital plan.
Well, yes,
I'm sorry.
Abe, just if anybody has,
Sorry.
I did want to bring up, Kevin learned today, there's something on the 2021 plan, the sidewalk, Babbitt and the Buxton Road sidewalk, for which the town applied for CDBG grant money. And Kevin, do you want to talk about that? Just
certainly. Yeah, it's good to share some good news. So we learned today from Westchester County, this is actually the 2022 project for the sidewalk on Buxton and Bedford Avenue, that we applied for a $150,000 grant from Westchester County, and we learned that the county has selected that project to move forward. The planning department will be recommending its approval to the Board of Legislators, and we should know more in March about next steps on that.
so that's good news.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Okay, does anybody have any questions about any of the projects that we just discussed and heard
I just
about?
have a quick question about the grant that Kevin was talking about. Does that require us to do any matching funds?
It does, and the matching funds are budgeted in the 2022 capital budget.
Okay.
Oh.
So, Supervisor, can I bring up the 2022 capital plan?
Yes,
Draft.
you can bring it up, but if anyone has any questions about anything on any of the lists we just looked at, please feel free to ask them. They're great. There's so many great projects on here that have been done or are in the works. So it's, I think it's a great list. We've got a lot of good stuff going on. So now we're going to look at the things that we get to decide if they are going forward for 2022. And again, as Abe mentioned, you can pull it up, Abe.
Yes. Am I sharing it now? I think I'm.
No.
No, okay. Let me see. Okay, is it there? I can't see.
No.
No.
There it is.
Okay,
Got it.
all right,
Yep.
all right, good.
Yep.
So as Supervisor Costas just mentioned, this is the draft 2022 capital project list that has been submitted to for the board's consideration. There are a number of projects here that you know that's the staff would like for the board to approve. And what I have done, actually, I have them in the order in which we would like to present them to you. And the first one is actually, it's the town clerk and the tax receiver who have requested the funding for that project. So I don't know whether Amy and Boo want to talk about it specifically.
Great, yes, thank you, Abe. Amy, I can't see you, but I know you're there, so just jump in. In the tax office and the town clerk's office, we have many, many historical documents. Many of them must be preserved forever. And the board has been very, very supportive of helping us to get many of our very old documents, birth certificates going back to the 1800s, marriage licenses back to the 1800s, properly preserved. We work with a company that will take these very old books, process the paper, they scan all the information into a disk for us for Laserfiche, and then they're able to, they rebind them into permanent preservation books. And I showed Ellen an example yesterday. And if any of the board members would like to stop in my office or Amy's, we're happy to show you the before and after. And it's really an incredible process. We're hoping that this might get us closer to being up to date, but Amy has some records in the basement. Amy, I don't know if you want to add anything to that.
Most tax records are permanent, so that's a problem because paper deteriorates over time. So currently in my office, we have been able to preserve 1800s, early 1900s tax rolls. And we were lucky to have an intern scan the ones that were from the 50s and 60s that saved us probably a good $50,000 instead of sending them out. And now we're up to the sale of the liens when towns used to be able to sell liens. And those are permanent records, and those are bound right now in my office, but they're on like a very fine paper. So those actually have to be taken out, unbound, preserved, and then rebound. And then I honestly didn't get downstairs into the basement today because I know my predecessor, there are some boxes down there that the books were falling apart. So she just put them into a box to try to save them. So I have to get down to the basement and see how much is down there as well.
And I should mention that Amy had a book last year that was just a box. We opened the box and this box was just all these pieces of paper. And if you could see it now, how they've preserved it and put it back together, it's really, and really, I don't think the price for this is exorbitant at all for what we get. It's the history of our town, and it's amazing. And my name is not John Stockbridge.
Great. Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you. Now, the next project is IT upgrade and software. And actually, typically, this is something that both Boo and I are involved in, any kind of, IT upgrades and software upgrades also. And the IT consultants provide the town with a with the capital plan of what needs to be replaced every 2 years. I know that due to the pandemic, again, whatever was approved for 2020, there was a delay in some of that, acquiring some of the equipment, some of the computers that needed to be updated. We're still, I mean, we placed a very substantial order with Hewlett Packard, who and we buy all the equipment through state contracts. But due to the shortage of a lot of computer technology, there's things have been coming in drabs. But the work for whatever would have been done in 2020, is being done now. Started actually during the summer, if I remember correctly, right, Boo?
Yes.
But so that's about to end. But again, we do have a schedule of replacement. And a lot of these things, actually, as you all know, technology becomes obsolete rather quickly. We also have a number of quite a few computers in all the departments, and also the licenses that go along with that, tend to be pricey. So the money that we request in these projects for IT upgrades and software covers all those expenses that we need for the town to continue working on that. And more importantly, one of the things that we do work on a more consistent basis is also security. And as you know, cybersecurity is a problem with everybody, and actually municipalities, over the last couple of years have been targets of that. So I can say that due to the steps that we have taken, I think there are many layers of cybersecurity that we have. So I think we're pretty well protected. Again, hopefully, that will continue to be so. But we're not easy targets. I don't know if you want to add anything to that, Boo.
Yeah, just to say that logically, we have to take cybersecurity classes. It's part of, the state mandate. Usually logically we'll come in and they'll, do their dog and pony show. And then several times throughout the year, they try to get us, which I think is great, because it really teaches people to be paying attention. They will send out emails that are from.
Uh-oh. Yeah, so what we were saying is actually they send emails that are really not, they're actually meant to see if anybody will open them and try to, open not only the email, but also any attachment that conceivably, could be corrupted. And again, that's some of the things that, she was saying that, we do get training, but also we also get tested to make sure that, we're following the procedures and the recommendations that are being made, of not opening up, seeing, who those emails come from, so that, we don't open up the gates to potential hackers and, people that could, plant, viruses in a computer. So.
Great.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. So the next few projects are actually for the building inspector, who's in charge of buildings, as I mentioned before, not only of municipal buildings, but also the building department. So Al, you have the next 5 departments. They're highlighted in the light yellow. So.
Yep. Thank you, Abe. Hello again. Okay, we'll start with the building department vehicle replacement. We have a 2008 Ford Fusion that's running its course. It's given us a lot of good years, 14 years old. The maintenance bills are going up, and it's be more cost efficient to bring on another all-wheel drive vehicle. We're ordering the Toyota RAV4, which is a hybrid vehicle, and it's all-wheel drive, which is important. That's one that we have. That's the first one. The next one I have is the Building Department Municipal software. Our software program from Municipal has basically run its course. The software writer will not continue to maintain the program beginning at the end of 2022, which is, forcing us to move on to another program, which we are now basically working with Abe and Boo and working on getting a new to explore to replace the current software so we can continue processing all our building department documentation with available technical support, which will be provided, which is key, crucial. Next one, I believe, let's see, I have a rug replacement for 321 Bedford Road and 425 Cherry Street. For all the offices, we basically have a lot of the offices that, once again, wear and tear. That's the issue with everything as time goes on. So we do have existing office rugs. Yep, it is for 425 and 321. And we would replace, that funding would be to replace as the most needed in the order that is most needed. So that's for that. And that's, let's see, one more I have here is the large scanner. We have the wide format scanner / copier that we have. And once again, there's another one that's run its course. We did Xerox. We're no longer giving us technical support on this. And so basically we have to upgrade the unit. We're in the process of doing so, and we have one lined up, which will basically allow us to copy and scan all our documentation. And then that's crucial. We do need an updated unit. That's for that. And the only other one, Abe, I think, that it comes back is the 1787 courthouse.
Well,
This
yeah,
one was
this
supposed to be
is-
deleted.
Right.
It's already done.
Right. So again, based on the conversation that, just to reiterate what you said before,
Yep.
with Lynn Ryan, this part of the building that was going to be painted initially, I guess, was done back in 2019. So we can certainly delete this project because it's already been completed.
Yeah.
So
Thank you.
But Abe, wasn't what was approved in 2021 for in the interior at the courthouse, and they didn't do, did they not do that work? Does that still need to be done?
Well, the one that was approved, the one that was in the previous one, that was actually for the bathroom and the plumbing.
Right.
That one was approved. Yeah, so that one still needs to be done.
Okay.
It's this one here, the one that has already, that they were able to, I guess, complete it with the previous funding that the town provided to, for the previous painting of the facade of the building. They wanted to do it initially. They wanted to do it in phases, but it ended up that they were able to get a quote that was substantially less if they did it all at the same time.
Oh, okay.
Right, exactly. So then this one here, I can just go ahead and actually, I can delete that particular line because it's really not even going to be a part of anything. So.
Okay.
Thanks, Abe.
The next one actually is the Bedford Village parking lot. I know that Jeff Osterman is, I'm sorry, yes.
I just wanted to ask Al, is there a 4-wheel drive that's all electric that you could consider for vehicle replacement?
Oh,
What's that? Hello?
Yes.
He lost his connection, Ellen.
Yeah. No, Ellen. There is
Okay.
none.
Okay.
I'm being serious. There is none. And the vehicles that were available are very low to the ground in the Prius, and it wouldn't work in all the job sites that we do. The next best thing that's available was the RAV4, which I do have one. I mean, it's a good vehicle in the snow, and we don't have to worry about that. It's a little higher off the ground. It's all-wheel drive and it's safer for the crew.
Okay.
Thank you.
And and just in terms of the software, are you looking at a new system or something similar to what you already, is it already the same system that you have?
Yeah, we're looking at the Municipal 5, which is basically it's one that a lot of the communities have went forward with. They have we're waiting to hear back from them. We're in the design stage with them, but I think they can offer us a lot. So we'll see as we go forward. But it is different. But it is, it's not the same fields, but I've yet to see it yet, but I hear good things about it. So we'll see what happens. It's an important thing so we can keep moving forward. Hopefully it can make a lot of our job duties a little easier, we'll see what
Ellen,
happens.
we currently have Municity, and so
Mhm.
this is an upgrade. Al, how many years have we had Municity? Like 10 years?
At least, I mean, I've been
Yeah.
here 6, so yeah, I mean, at least it might be a little bit more, but
Right.
yeah, it is an upgrade. But it's I think we're still waiting to hear back from them, right, Boo? I mean, I think we
Yes,
submitted the paperwork.
we had some paperwork we had to get into them from planning and from building, and that's been submitted, and they will then come back to us with the exact plan of how we can implement it, and we can do it when it's best for us. So we have until the end of 22. So, if Alice, if we're still having issues in the building department with staffing, etc., we probably should wait until the second half of the year to try to implement it. But that, of course, is up to the 2 departments who are involved and how much work. Since we're going from the original Municity into Municity 5, it's not like we have to add the information again. They roll it over for us. So it's going to be different, but hopefully good different, right, Al?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. And I just want to add a couple more things about that. Municity 5 is a cloud-based software.
Yes.
So on the one hand, is going to save a server room in-house. But again, that really is really not a substantial expense because, again, servers are not as expensive as they used to be many years ago.
Mhm.
However, the one thing that, again, the board needs to keep in mind too, and this is, as we work on the 2023 budget, this is going to increase the hosting fees for the data, which it's something that we need to make sure that when we contract with Municity that we have what the costs are going to be going forward after the implementation. And again, going with the same company and same software, they will do all the migration. So the costs really are less expensive than if we were going with a new software. But I just wanted to mention that we need to keep that in mind as we, when we work on the 22-23 budget. And I think the board needs to be made aware, is not only for the technical support that they're going to be providing, but also for the hosting fees that, we need to make sure that we have all the information so that we can budget accordingly in 2023.
And one other thing that I just want to mention, when we first started with Municity, which was about 10 years ago, we had, building records have to be kept forever for the life of the property. So we had probably 450, 500, more than that, thousands of boxes in our basement of property information. And we have had all of that information scanned into Municity. It was a huge project, and Alex Costello from the building department and I were able to get a few different grants where the state helped us with these changeovers, and now we have literally no boxes I mean, if you walk into the basement, what used to be crowded with all these boxes, we were able to get rid of the paper. And that is really what we're all trying to move towards. And of course, some of the larger plans we still have. And I know there are a couple of projects, Jeff, that he wants every box of. But I understand that, and that is certainly up to the individual department. But I would say we have 95% of all of our records online. So, and Municity is just, you know, it's one of those systems where all you have to do, we have it in the assessor's office, we have it at the building office, we have it in planning. You just put in a parcel ID and it can give you the entire history of this parcel, you know, everything that's happened there. And it really, once COVID is finally gone, you know, our what we wanted to do was have, and we do have computers outside the building department, and we have them in the tax office, and we have them in the assessor's office, where people can go in and get information themselves instead of us having to give everything to them, instead of the planning and building departments having to stop their work during the day and, you know, give all this information. So it's a very good way to be able to share with the public. And there are also things that we can block out. If there's particular information that needs to be blocked out to the public, that can be done also. So we really have come a very long way.
Can I add one more thing?
We thank all the boards for all of their support, because it wasn't cheap.
One more thing on the Municity, it's Amy. Eventually, when Harry's office gets updated with their state program, the building, the assessor's office, and my office, all our programs will be able to talk to each other. So that is also a very large step. So anything Harry's office updates automatically would be updated in my office and in the building department. And if I update something, their offices will be updated. So it will help eventually when the state upgrades their program.
Thank you.
I love that you guys love Municity. You know, and I'm just wanting to know if you looked at the alternatives, or is Municity the gold standard in this particular software?
Well, you might get two different answers on this. When we first did it, like 10 years ago, they were the first. There was really nothing else. And other municipalities were using it. And we also had the ability to, like, not everybody has a wetlands board. So we were able to have them create a special section for our wetlands information. So, you know, they were able to modify things for us. There has been, and I will certainly let Al talk about this, but from Al's perspective, he has heard that the new Municity isn't quite as easy as the old Municity. I've spoken to several towns that have already installed it, Mamaroneck being one of them. And it's just, you know, they said it's different. You just have to get used to it, but it has many more features and many different ways to manipulate the information. But I will let Al talk to that, because it's his.
No, yeah, thanks, Boo. I mean, there are more features the more time that I have spoken to other building inspectors and other departments. But what we're really waiting for is Municity 5 to come back to us, because they have a presentation after we gave them all our paperwork. And if they can handle the items that were given by each one of our departments, especially, you know, Donna worked on a lot of questions. And if they can basically supply and provide the help that we need, then I'll be very I'm very interested to see their response. If they can provide a lot of the data and the tech behind it, it could be very worthwhile. And we do hear from different departments that it's a work in progress. So when they do come through, things have gotten better. So as they go from municipality to municipality, so I think we might be in the right spot, right time and spot with them. So I'm looking forward to hearing back from them.
Actually, they, part of this is my fault because I wasn't here for a month, but they did reach out to us and they're anxious to get back in touch with Al and his team and the rest of us to put a plan in place.
So we'll set it up. That's great.
And
Yes.
and Stephanie, just to answer one of your questions is, so Municity is one of the gold standards for the building department, as it has been mentioned or described and in detail. So yes, it is one of the gold standards, but and also we have not reached out to anybody else because considering the cost of what we would have to pay to migrate, it may end up being less expensive for us to stay with them and to just have, do the migration that they will do for ourselves, because it's the same kind of technology, it's just a different version of more up-to-date software. So that's why we have not gone to other sources.
I can appreciate that. I will also say that sometimes going to other sources means that the people that you really want will work even harder for you.
Right.
So, I've certainly had that experience putting things out to bid and then getting more back from the company that I was already with, because, their business is not guaranteed, and so I just think it's always worthwhile, particularly with such a big investment in software. And I appreciate the migration, and we have to obviously consider the learning curve and the amount of time that it would take for anybody to learn something new. But it's just, I just think it's always good to know what else is out there.
I certainly agree. However, it's not like there are 10 vendors that do this. It's a very limited, it's a very limited scope. I think there's like one, maybe two others.
There aren't many others, and I haven't heard the greatest things about a couple of them either. We used to have them come to our NISBOC meetings. So really going throughout, I think most of the municipalities are with Municity and now Municity 5.
I support you. I just throwing it out there because,
thank you. Yes.
I certainly do support the idea of making them sweat a little. That's for sure.
I got you.
Oh, I make them sweat. Don't worry about that.
Oh, yeah.
Excellent.
Okay, move on.
So Bedford Village parking lot. So that will be Jeff Osterman.
Good evening, all. This is a project with some age. The number you see here, the $1.1 million, is for the actual construction cost anticipated. This is to build, I think, as most of you know, 76 parking spaces behind the main retail block in Bedford Village. It's been discussed for a long time, but it was active planning really as of 2017. There's a property acquisition involved. There was a subdivision involved. COVID really slowed us down. We had a hard time getting the basic topography for this area set up for the same reason that the building department has issues with extra work. There's a lot of activity for people in the real estate system, and that slowed us down. There's a separate budget here earlier for plan preparation that I think Abe can explain if you need to. In 2022, I think we'll be lucky to get construction started. The major problem here is that we need a permit from the Army Corps of Engineers, and that's what's holding us up at the moment.
Right, so I would like to talk about in the 2021 capital plan, there was a $125,000 for soft costs for engineering and even for the permitting process. Again, as Jeff mentioned, the money's there. COVID certainly stopped, like slowed us down. And based on some of, what's going on now, there are plans moving the project forward. The one thing that Jeff and I discussed this afternoon is whether or not the property will be able to acquire go through the acquisition of the property in 2022. And that's something that, again, we could conceivably, for the board's benefit, we can, make sure that when bond counsel prepares bond resolutions that you would have to approve at some point, that we keep that particular resolution set aside, not incorporated with anything else, so that it gives the town an opportunity to postpone borrowing it, since it's not going to be a part of, could potentially, it doesn't have to be a part of the 2023 bond. Again, depending on the timing, I think it may possibly be, but I think just to make sure that we time it properly, we don't, we can keep it separate if that's the direction that the town board would like for us to take. I think it's good planning if we do that, and then we can see what happens later in 2022.
Yeah, part of what Abe's talking about is that the town set up a conditional contract with the Presbyterian Church to buy this property, conditioned upon receiving the proper permits. So the town at the moment doesn't actually own this property. So there's a series of wheels turning in hopefully the right direction here. I think that we'll be lucky to have the permits all in place within 2022. I think that'd be great, but I can't promise that.
Good. Any questions from? Oh, okay.
Yeah, there are some challenges to this one where it's going to be a process. So we look forward to our new planning director starting and getting up to speed on all the things that will have to happen to make this parking lot a reality. Sorry.
The next couple of projects are actually for the police department, and I believe the police chief is on the Zoom. There's traffic safety and the replacement of the police cruisers. Mel?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes.
So with regard to traffic safety, those funds are and have been used to upgrade or acquire variable message speed boards and other traffic safety equipment, such as radar, speed measuring devices, license plate readers, in addition to some protective equipment for some of our larger events. If you notice in the news in recent events, vehicles have sometimes been used to crash into large groups and that type of thing. So I'll be looking to try and get some equipment to provide some protection. And that's what those funds are and have been used for in the past. I don't have a specific piece of equipment that I can reference, but I'd be happy to answer questions on what we've used it for in the past. It is kind of an annual allocation between highway and PD to deal with those types of upgrades and replacements and acquisitions.
So you don't have a wish list right now for like more variable speed boards or something like that. It's to be determined.
Correct. Historically speaking, we each year we've always had to change or replace the existing variable message speed boards, because we try and add new locations each year so that we can get real-time feedback on volume and other emerging issues, whether it be speed related or other things. So as we add locations, we utilize these funds to purchase that equipment. We've also used it for the variable message trailers that you see, so that we can be mobile with different messaging devices, and we use those for the parades and carnivals and all that type of thing for motorist information.
Okay. Thank you.
As far as the police department replacement vehicles go, every year we have 2 or 3 vehicles that hit the century mark and are over 100,000 miles, which obviously in turn results in increased maintenance costs. We currently have 4 vehicles over 100,000 miles. And the 2 vehicles, there's not very many hybrid or electric police vehicles available, but there is a hybrid police Ford Explorer, and those 2 of those are what we will be asking for approval from the board to purchase for 2022.
Good. Great.
That's a pretty straightforward category, but happy to answer any questions.
Sounds good.
Okay. So the next few projects are actually projects that are associated with the recreation department, whether it's general recreation. Again, since Chris Soy is in charge of the cemeteries, there's more additional funding for the cemeteries that was, I guess, committed to the cemetery committee a few years back, and we have had actually 20,000 for improvements to the cemeteries, pretty much on a yearly basis. But again, these are things that the town board, the current town board, can certainly, go in a different direction if they see necessary. So, Chris, if you could maybe elaborate on some of the projects that they have talked about doing with these funds.
Yes, thanks, Abe. The improvements of the town-owned cemeteries, the recent past history has been working on the repair and restoration of stone walls, again, at Buxton primarily. We are still, a number of phases were completed in this, and there's still some more work to be done. So annually, we pretty much have worked it out where about $20,000 worth of work gets done on these stone walls. So there are designated or acknowledged areas that still need work and restoration. So that's what that is for. And that has been pretty efficient the past, I think going back to 2017, and at least the past 3 years of $20,000 in each year, the phase getting completed and the money being spent. So that's cemeteries. Abe, the solar installation, I haven't really been in any substantive conversations regarding the solar installation at the pool houses.
So I think this is something that I think Supervisor Cox and I had talked about briefly, whether or not this is something that the town may want to go forward with or not, because I know that when this was put into the project, into the list, there was different options that were being considered. So
I think we should consult with Mark Tealking, who's our energy and sustainability consultant, on what kind of incentives are available. And if we could do it for much less than that, I think it would make sense. But there are other things going on with solar right now, so I'm not sure that would make the most sense. So I can get back to you on that. I'll check with Mark.
Sure.
Okay, so then the shared parks, you'll see, you scroll, as we go down through the spreadsheet, the shared parks, that funding for equipment replacement at $55,500 is, there's that amount in Bedford Hills Park District, Bedford Village Park District, and Katona Park District. Allows us to replace vehicles, trucks on our replacement schedule, as well as our other equipment, mowers, as it says, turf equipment, trailers, additional equipment needs as they come up. We do have a replacement schedule for our vehicles, and we've been able, this funding has been very important and essential in allowing us to upkeep our fleet and keep everything operating as it should be, and also upgrade our equipment as needed. The recent history on this has been, I believe, every 2 years that amount has been allocated, and again has been important in allowing us to upkeep our equipment and not falling behind or expending money on repairs and such. So that's that. And again, you'll see it come up in the other park districts, the same amount. The shared parks vehicle replacement R2, that's our other vehicle utilized by staff around town for all work. That is a 2009 Ford Escape. That also, I believe, we're about over 70,000 miles, but also due to the just duration of time, repairs are quite expensive. It's on the schedule to be replaced. We are looking at the hybrid RAV4 as well, needing all wheel and responding to some of the areas that we need to get to in throughout town and in the parks. That is the vehicle that we would be looking to move forward with. If there's any questions on that. You'll see Bedford Hills Park, both the recoding option here or project here for the basketball court. Again, we look to about every 4 to 6 years for this recoding. I would have to say, through some of my experiences in other departments and other municipalities, this schedule, I think, goes a very long way in the upkeep and maintenance of our courts. We definitely have courts that are in quite good shape and highly used, and that maintains the use. If you let that duration of time go a little too far and deterioration goes too far, you obviously have a bigger project to repair, and then you also you start reducing the usage for a number of reasons. So that we are looking to do that project at Bedford Hills. The Bedford Hills Park tennis court repairs and pickleball courts installation. There was some additional discussion towards the end of last year. I'm pretty sure we were all pretty familiar with the pickleball craze and enthusiasm that folks have for that sport. So we were looking to install a permanent set of courts at Bedford Hills Park. The proposed, conceptual design is still being worked on, but we think that would be a great addition to that park and to the community. We already have a couple locations within Bedford Hills Park that have pickleball lines painted that allow for temporary setups, but to have a permanent installation would be great. So that's
very popular. There's always a ton of people there.
Yeah, the demand is high. Talked to me 5 years ago. I thought maybe it was going to be a little bit of a flash in the pan and kind of come and go a little bit, but younger players are playing, teens even, and it's not just not the Florida set that are playing the sport. So that we're looking at that. So then it goes to shared parks. Again, that's the funding split within the park districts. And the R2 replacement funding within the Katona Park District. The wooded area management, there's been funds available in the Katona Park District to do and address management of the trees and the landscaping and the areas in Katona. Obviously, a very heavily wooded park, and its location also helps us address drainage, erosion issues. It's funding that again has helped us address some things that are planned and some things that actually come up, whether something that comes to light maybe post storm that we have to respond to. But we're looking at this year, we have some projects in place to address some tree issues around the tennis courts and look to do some replanting and some landscaping, and then also some drainage concerns and erosion concerns in some locations in the park. So that 10,000 helps us there. Again, then we move to Bedford Village Park District and the shared parks funding. We see the Little League and softball improvements. We've had this plan for a couple of years to address some fencing issues, some bleacher dugout stands issues, and some field issues in that park, improve drainage and runoff, but Fencing is more the big ticket item there to replace and update some of the fencing around the fields. So that funding will allow us to do that. And then the premier tennis court resurfacing, Bedford Village tennis court surface. If you didn't know, it's not a hard court. It's a kind of overlay that was done a number of years ago. It requires, it's a different product, requires a different kind of application, and it is well worn and in need of replacement and repair and replacement. So that allows us to do that work out at Bedford Village.
Great.
Any questions?
Again, just to the electric, the vehicles and the equipment, that's a priority for making sure those things are electric for the most part.
Yeah, so Pat, we also, there has been a line, it's not funded for 2022 for green parks equipment that was specifically developed, I believe back, I don't know if 2018 was the first year of it, but it might have went back one cycle before that, but we do have a separate line that allows us, and there's still available funds unspent that we are looking, that will go directly to those funds specifically for electric, but then under the shared parks equipment, we also have the ability, obviously, to purchase electric equipment with those funds as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you.
And the one thing that I just want to mention, which, just in case any member of the town board or the public has questions about the, with the park districts, we divide them. The reason that we divide some of these, equipment that is shared is because, the portion of the debt service that's issued for the acquisition of these, of the equipment or the vehicles is actually then, proportionally, the debt service is proportionally paid by each park district resident. So that's why, again, anything that is shared, we divide it with the three, amongst the three park districts. So this way there's an equality, with the acquisition of the equipment because they do get used in all three park districts. The next one, actually, the next set of projects are related to public works. I know that Kevin Nguyen, will be presenting some of this information, and he can provide, even answer questions related to this, to the list that begins with the project for the improvements to the Hamlet centers. Kevin?
Thank you, Abe. Good evening again. So the Hamlet Center project was something that was budgeted or put in the capital plan a few years ago to address many aspects of the hamlets. And this is the first of, I believe, 3 tranches in the long-term capital plan. But given that we've just done a lot of work throughout the hamlets on the sewers, many of the sidewalks are in need of total replacement. The sewer project, and we also did some work through water infrastructure, replacing services. Sewer and water will pay for their part, but Bedford Hills, more than Katona, really the sidewalk is in poor condition. It's been heaved in many locations by the street trees, and it's just 35 to 40 years old and in need of replacement. So the intent of this for 2022 is to replace the majority of the sidewalk in the Bedford Hills hamlet, including replacing the street trees. I'm working with our tree planting committee on establishing a plan for the trees. And I've also been working with the master plan subcommittee from Bedford Hills about the project. So the intent would be to replace the majority of the sidewalks in the Bedford Hills hamlet, as well as the sidewalks in Katona between Parkway and Valley Road on Katona Avenue. The next project is the Crusher Road Highway Yard upgrade. Our maintenance building there is over 50 years old and in poor condition, both in terms of a workspace and break location for our employees, and also environmentally, it is practically like heating the outside. It's in very poor condition.
So we need to replace the building, and the plan would be to replace it with a larger, much more energy efficient facility that would be a better working space for our employees, as well as be able to store more equipment indoors, which will prolong the life of our vehicles and equipment. And that is a big benefit, as the fleet is quite costly. So the first phase in 2022 would be planning to hire an architect or engineer to cost estimate and look at the size of the building, and also look at our material storage over there in terms of both winter materials and gravel to better organize and store material, particularly so it's in better condition for winter use. The next is traffic safety for highway. So to segue back to the last couple of years of traffic safety, those funds for 2020 and 2021 will be used for a crosswalk in Bedford Village across the Route 22 by Historical Hall. So the traffic safety kind of projects develop as we see needs in the community. We've used them for road humps. We're currently using, as I said, the past couple projects for a crosswalk, which will be a great safety benefit. There is no current project slotted for the $65,000 for 2022, but we can certainly react to community needs that come up through the traffic safety working group and other projects as we see fit. Road rehabilitation, an important part of our annual work is paving of the roads. Keeping up on that allows them to not deteriorate to the point that they need much more expensive and thorough reconstruction. Basically, we can get by with overcoating the roads with asphalt as long as they're not significantly deteriorated. If they get worse, then the base material needs to be removed and the projects get much more expensive. So we have in the budget here $650,000, a large majority of which, 275, is proposed to be funded through ARPA funds, and the majority of the balance, I should say, through the capital project.
So I just want to add to that. So we actually put that 275 in out of ARPA fund, again, pending the town board agreeing to fund that a portion of that project from our ARPA funds. And the reason also was because the paving in the highway operating fund, was not fully funded after it was cut the prior year. Again, that 275 in ARPA fund is a recommendation that the board will have to then approve and appropriate what we, out of the $1.8 million, the 275,000, if you want to go in that direction.
Thanks for clarifying, Abe. And also, as you mentioned, there are also paving funds in the expense budget. With the combination of the two, we end up on a cycle of paving roads of about 14 to 15 years, which is a reasonable cycle based on the life of an asphalt coating. The next is the project that Supervisor Calves mentioned at the beginning of this discussion related to the CDBG funds. So we did learn we'll be likely successful in getting the $150,000, which means that we will include in the capital plan here the $200,000 for the match for the project. And this will allow us to replace deteriorated sidewalk around the Bedford Hills Elementary School. Vehicles and equipment, a large portion of our ability to get work done is our fleet, and we rely on our fleet. When I started here, we had a quite aged fleet that was in very poor condition and frequently broken down, which made it much harder to maintain the roads, particularly during winter conditions when much of our fleet is needed to maintain the road safety. So over the years, we've done a good job of catching up on the condition. We still have some vehicles that date back to the early 2000s. So actually our grader is much older than that. So each year we have a budget of money that we do a condition assessment in the spring and use towards allocating replacement for vehicles and equipment as needed. And lastly, tree removal and replanting. In 2018 and 19, we had Davy Resources Group do a tree management plan, tree inventory and tree management plan of the Hamlet other areas and other areas of interest in the town. And out of that came a decent amount of work as far as recommendations for pruning and removal of trees for safety improvements. So this is the third year of budget for this. We actually did receive a grant from New York State DEC, and credits to the Conservation Board
particularly Simon Skolnick, for working on that for $50,000. So Abe, I think we can put that in here as match and just borrow 15 for this year.
This, are you talking about the money that he got
Yep.
from the DEC?
Exactly, New York State DEC, yes, because that'll be used for the tree removal for this year.
I think that may have been already considered that in last year's tree. But you know what, we can certainly check, and if that's the case, then we would only need then 50,000. So, but I believe that those funds may have been part of the prior year's tree removal and replanting.
Okay, well, we can clarify that, but anyway, it's good news that we were able to get funds from the state on that, and we're working with the state to use them and have the appropriate supervision from the state forester so we get the funds. That's the last project in highway. We have a few in water, but any questions on the highway projects that I presented? Okay, then moving on to our water districts. So I think by far my focus this year is going to need to be on water. In the consolidated district, we have a Delaware Aqueduct shutdown that's going to be implemented by New York City because of maintenance they have to do from this coming October through May of 2023, which means that our largest source of supply will be out of service. And as we've talked about, our backup supply, the Cross River Reservoir, was found to have a significant taste and odor problem last year, which had not existed in previous years due to a algae byproduct called MIB. So basically, we've been sampling for that now on a twice a month basis, and the concentrations are starting to come down, but they were high from October all the way through December, at which point we would not have been able to use Cross River without significant complaints from our customers. It's not a health hazard, but it certainly made the water taste objectionable, I guess, or bad. So I've been working with Supervisor Calvis and the board on analyzing the best way to move forward, whether treatment at the water plant, using some of our previously used well supplies, or using our interconnection with Mount Kisco. And the best course of action is a combination of using the Harris Road well with some treatment added there, and also developing a pump station at the interconnection with Mount Kisco. That'll give us the appropriate water for the shutdown and also some redundancy in case we have a failure or a problem during the 8-month projected shutdown. So we list fund balance as the source here. I've been talking with Abe over the last few days. There's also some water capital that goes back to earlier borrowed projects that we can use as well. So it'll be a combination of those sources. And then the Farms and Old Post Road water districts, in early 2021, a new contaminant was required to be monitored for called PFAS. It's a fluoridated compound that is regulated at the parts per trillion, so a very low concentration level. And New York State had implemented a new action level or contaminant level for it and reduced the amount well below the federal level. So in the Farms district, in one of the wells, this contaminant was found above the action level or contaminant level. We need to either provide treatment for it or develop a new source. We've done extensive analysis and determined that a new supply, if we can develop one, will be a better long-term approach. And we've also applied for a grant through New York State Environmental Facilities Corporation to help with that. We'll know better in the first quarter of this year if we're successful. So the scope of this project is to install new wells and a new water main and treatment system in order to bring that new source of supply into the Farms and Old Post Road water districts.
Great. Expensive projects, Kevin, but
Yeah,
well worth
lots of
it.
projects.
Yeah.
And,
Great.
And if I may too, so these water projects are conceivably, especially the last one for the farms on the Old Post Road. As you recall, when Kevin presented this in November, in addition to getting some kind of funding from the environmental corporation, the town board may want to consider, allocating some of the ARPA money as well. Again, since water and sewer infrastructure is the type of projects that are allowed, under the regulations. I think, again, the board may want to consider, putting some, whatever you desire, into this particular project.
Yeah. Yes, I think we are going to have to, well, we do need to talk about the process for allocating some ARPA money coming up soon, but I do understand that these are very expensive projects that directly go to health and safety of residents and fit well within ARPA. If we don't have enough funding, we should hold back allocating, all of the ARPA money before we understand fully if we get this grant and what else may be needed for providing a not smelly water supply to the Consolidated Water District. Also, Kevin mentioned when we were talking about 2021 projects that the sewer connections that the town is going to have to provide to buildings has not been fully funded. So there's just been some new estimates of what that's going to cost. I think we may want to consider that also for some of the ARPA funds, because that is well within what that money is supposed to be used for, infrastructure for water and wastewater treatment. We do need to set a work session for talking about ARPA and the process that we want to go through, to allocate some of that money and talk to some of the parties that we may be interested in partnering with, or other projects we want to fund. Any other discussion about what we've been presented? That was a lot of information, and thank you everyone for being here and presenting that. Did the town board members have any more questions or discussion about the 2022 list?
I don't have concerns about the list. My only question is, how do we want to facilitate a plan for sidewalks? And that may be over the course of a 10-year plan that we're going to be talking about, but is that something we're going to want to start in 2022, or is that going to be started later?
Yes, I think we had talked about, we know we've heard from a group of people who live on Huntville or around Huntville Road, who would really like us to consider changing their asphalt sidewalk to a concrete sidewalk. And they have requested to present to the town board. I think that is one area. There may be others. So I do think it would be a good time to form a small group to consider what sidewalks, the condition. I think Kevin monitors the condition of sidewalks and has a schedule for maintaining them. This is
right, because there's the condition of sidewalks, and then there's the absence of sidewalks and connecting things and making things more walkable, because then there are the areas of town that have become more dense over time and really could use sidewalks where before it wasn't such a big issue. And I think that's something that we need to address.
Right. I think it should also be a group that considers the ongoing cost to the town of adding sidewalks. I think there's areas where Huntville Road wants their sidewalk changed, and so that wouldn't really change the maintenance around it. And maybe there are other places that people want a sidewalk improved or changed, but there may also be proposals out there for new sidewalks, and then we do have to consider the ongoing snow removal and maintenance of those areas. So it's a long-term commitment. So yeah, we could start a small group, maybe with our new planning director and some people who are on the transportation subcommittee for the comprehensive plan have probably looked at walkability to some extent. I think we heard from somebody who was representing seniors and disabled persons who had evaluated some sidewalks. Joan, we could ask maybe her to help out. I mean, we could form a small group, or we could form a formal committee and do interviews. And I think we probably have enough resources.
Yeah, that was an additional concern for accessibility for people with disabilities, and making sure that things are wheelchair accessible, because if we're going to put things in, we need to do it right from the beginning.
So so we could form a small group to take a look at this issue, and we can maybe in our next meeting, we can sort of officially outline what their task is and by when they should be completed with it. And I think, there's going to need to be some public involvement along the way for sure, hearing from people. I know we're going to hear from a lot of people who want sidewalks on state and county roads, and that it's not really something we can handle in sort of our capital plan or sort of maintenance planning discussions, but eventually it is. But that's a much heavier lift. I think this is more for the sidewalks. I mean, it can be a plan for sidewalks, but we'd have to set expectations for sure. There's some things that are really hard to do.
I think that sidewalks certainly need attention and are very important for our town. Just for perspective, we'll be spending about $1 million on sidewalks this year, perhaps more depending on the CDBG grant. So there will be a lot of money spent on sidewalk infrastructure, but there's more to do. Jeff Osterman actually, over the last couple of decades, kind of put together a longer term plan that led to sidewalks up Cherry Street, which definitely changed the pedestrian accessibility of that area down to the Katona Hamlet and the Bedford Hills Hamlet. And that was implemented over 10 to 15 years. I think that was an area that probably density increased a little bit, and just demand and perception of what is rural versus areas that people want pedestrian access kind of changed as the population changed. So I think it is something that we should focus on and get the needs of the community, better understand the needs of the community. I think the comprehensive plan process will help with that.
Great.
I think, all that's absolutely true. And in addition, I think it's really important to be thinking about the traffic patterns in some of these neighborhoods, because, we have so much traffic going so quickly through some neighborhoods that are within walking distance of the train stations. And I think we have to be considering that as well, the safety.
Yeah.
Right. That was another thing I was going to raise. And of course, that's not a 2022 capital planning issue, but it may be the long-term capital planning, because Bedford Hills, for example, I think part of the issue with the vitality of the hamlet there is that we need to reroute trucks. We need to redesign the flow of traffic. It's not like Jessica's not going to have anything to do when she gets here. I think the traffic flow is a problem. I think the layout's a problem. The trucks coming through, and plus sidewalks. And I think that is going to have to be dealt with over a very long time. But I think we're going to want to start sooner rather than later. And that's going to have to be hand in hand with the new comprehensive plan.
Yes.
Okay.
So we're going to have to be very clear about what the charge is and what the deliverables are, so that we can really, like Ellen said, manage expectations, but also, offer a deliverable that's meaningful.
One thing we need to be careful with is, with Bedford Hills, we're talking about spending several $100,000s on replacing sidewalk and trees and keeping the same configuration of the hamlet. And I haven't heard through any of the comprehensive plan process about a desire to change that. As some of you probably know, it was really drastically changed in the 1980s when the hamlet was reconstructed and the traffic flow was modified. So
I have
if it is
not
something-
seen the comprehensive plan yet, so I honestly don't know what's in there. I'm just saying that I think if we want to improve the vitality of that hamlet, that has to be explored.
Sure, that understood.
And I would hate to spend money now.
I'm going by what
Yeah, I would hate to spend money now on anything that, in 2 years, we may just be ripping up again.
Right, that's the reason I'm bringing it up.
That's right.
Well, we have a lot of work to do on the comprehensive plan, and there is a meeting of the comprehensive plan people committee tomorrow night at 7:30 on this channel, not this exact Zoom channel, but on Zoom for neighborhoods. So that's for people who don't live directly sort of in one of the 3 hamlets, but sort of have a self-described neighborhood that they consider they live in, and if they have any issues. But we will be I hope to really aggressively move forward the comprehensive plan so that we know exactly where we're going, and we have to get it done this spring, I hope, so that we all can move forward confidently with things like improving Bedford Hills sidewalks and street trees. I don't know of a plan to dramatically reroute the traffic. And if that is part of the plan, certainly we would want to hold off on all of the things Kevin has planned for Bedford Hills, but hopefully we'll know that sooner than later.
Sure, and in talking with the Transportation Committee and Bedford Hills subcommittees, I haven't heard that, so I'm not understanding that's an outcome, but just want to make sure that everyone's expectations are aligned.
Yep. Okay, great. Well, I think one thing we do need to work on the language for the sidewalk group that we're going to charge with some work, and an ARPA work session, we can figure out when to put that on the calendar. We also, I just want to mention that there are some people interested in helping us look for grants, and we can talk to that group of people at some point. I know some of them have been on this call just listening. And so, if we have projects that we think there are maybe opportunities to get some additional funding to support, whether they're projects we just talked about or other ones, that could be a really great source of help to have some people helping us write grants or look for grants, just considering that. Or if there are other projects that maybe didn't make this list, but we'd like to be ready to do if funding became available, that would be good to know. Okay, so I think the town board can, really look at this list. If you have any changes, we can discuss it at our next town board meeting on Tuesday, the 18th, and decide if we're ready to move forward with this. If we are, we would be issuing some resolutions, bond resolutions, to go forward with borrowing the money when we do that in 2023. Anything else from any town board members? Nope. Okay. Anything else from anyone else here?
Ellen, did you see there's a question?
No, I think I guess
I've lost it. Let's see.
I
Can the grant group obtain copies of the spreadsheets?
Yes, I will put the spreadsheets on the. They were supposed to be in the agenda packet, and so.
Yeah, it's posted on the website.
I don't think it got.
No?
Posted.
Yeah, I'm not sure it got posted, Abe.
So,
Okay,
but
I'm
yes.
sorry. I thought, Phyllis, I was able to go on the website today, and I thought it was attached to it, unless maybe. I could be
Yeah,
wrong, so.
something happened that it didn't come through. So we will, and we will post this Zoom recording as well for anyone who wasn't able to get in to this meeting. Okay, so I'm having a hard time seeing everyone. All right, thank you, everyone. And I would like to call for the town board to go into an executive session for the purposes of advice about labor negotiations.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Supervisor Calvis, I'll move you into the breakout rooms.
That's great. Thank you so much, Roxanne. All right, thank you everybody for attending this work session. I think that was incredibly helpful.
Good night.
Good night.
Night.
Good
Do
night.
you need me in that executive session? I wasn't sure, so I just wanna,
Sure, come on in.
okay.